Hey everyone, Super Rocker here, and welcome back to another video, where today we're going to be reacting to Hyperjoy's FNAF theory video, which involves the survival logbook, on which Hyperjoy has actually solved one of FNAF's biggest and oldest mysteries. That mystery being the crying child's name. At first, the community agreed on the name Evan, but with everything that we're about to see here within Hyperjoy's video, the crying child's name being Evan may no longer be the case. What's also excites me to see this video is that it involves the Foxy Grid, and we all know that the Foxy Grid is one of the biggest things in the franchise that has gone completely unsolved, and it has remained so until Hyperjoy solved it. So we're not going to be wasting any more time. We're gonna go ahead and jump straight into it. Here we go.
FNAF Survival Logbook released 6 years ago and contained puzzles to get the two names of the most important characters. The fifth missing child that possesses Golden Freddy, who some theorize to be the one you should not have killed,
Cassidy.
and the crying child, whose importance in the story is still debated to this day. Today I am here to announce that I think I might have solved it. Seriously. We're not wasting any more time, so please subscribe and turn on notifications so you get notified when the biggest FNAF video ever, over 24 hours long and a whole year in the making, going over literally everything, FNAF the Supreme Guide, releases in just a few weeks. I don't know.
Hey, let's go. Happy to
this,
hear that.
And let's get
Happy
into
to
it.
hear that.
Although before we begin, a giant disclaimer that this is just a theory. Feel completely free to disagree with me and not take these possible answers at all. I just happen to get the solution and personally thinks that it works pretty well, so of course I'm going to share it. This is just a theory. Please, let's keep this community positive.
Absolutely.
Anyways, let me catch you up real quick. So shortly after FNAF 6 released and seemingly ended the original story, the Survival Logbook released, itself being basically a children's activity book containing things like quizzes, would you rathers, drawing grids, etc. However, on the first page it's revealed that this logbook was actually owned by Michael Afton himself, and so we knew we were in for some lore reveals. Mike notes that his recent dreams are of Nightmare Fredbear, confirming he's the player of FNAF 4, that he actually connects with and parallels Clara from The Immortal and the Restless, and with all the FNAF 3 imagery and the fact Clara quote-unquote burned down the house, seemingly hinting that he's indeed the FNAF 3 guide as well, even having a real value code which proves that the book takes place in modern times. However, that's not all. Throughout this logbook we also learn of two other spirits inhabiting the book, whether literally or not. One writing in faded text to someone else altering the text, writing multiple times throughout things like, do you remember your name, who are you, and what's your name, hinting that we're meant to get the names of these two spirits within the logbook. Very quickly we discovered that one spirit is the crying child, hinted at via the does he still talk to you text next to the Fredbear plush, as well as other hints, and that the other was the fifth missing child who possesses Golden Freddy, hinted at via the gravestone drawing having my name written on it by Faded only a few weeks after we got the final FNAF game, with an ending literally containing a name hidden on a gravestone for the fifth missing child.
We all know that.
Fast forward to June 4th, and MatPat released a game theory about the logbook, asking us to help him solve this thing after providing us with numbers that throughout the logbook are either in the wrong places or noted in red as important, those being 52, 39, 15, 7 and 2, grabbing the new numbers from the chalkboard 5 plus 4 for 9 and the 3, 10 and 11, and finally 8, 11. Then later that same day on the Game Theory subreddit, user DPowerful1 figured out that you need to insert these numbers into the word search grid instead of the Foxy Grid, giving us 5 across 2 down for C, 3 across 9 down for A, 1 across 5 down for S, 7 across 2 down for S, 9 across 3 down for I, 10 across 11 down for D, and finally 8 across 11 down for Y, to create the name Cassidy, the name of the Golden Freddy spirit. Finally, it was solved. However, that then left the Foxy Grid unfinished, and there's clearly something there with the faded out ABC on the top left. Years later, the powerful duo on Reddit, Godzilla and Wolfie, shared their joint attempt at it. Some of Cassidy's questions to Crying Child were not responded to, but there were a few that actually were. Does he still talk to you was responded with, I can hear sounds. The party was for you was responded to with, it was for me. What do you see was responded to, I can't see, which using the page numbers for the questions all related to the Crying Child, 103 and 59, which in putting it into the Foxy Grid gave us 7 across 5 down to get E, 10 across 3 down to get V, and 5 across 9 down to get A. Then finally they predicted that the random tally marks throughout were to be used to get the final letter, totaling to 47, and getting the letter 4 across and 7 down N to create the name Evan. However, just like MatPat said in his video, despite not being a bad theory or anything, the method does end up breaking on the 4th letter, and they end up using an entirely separate system to get it, which feels like the wrong thing to do, as for Cassidy was using the specifically marked numbers throughout, aka only using one method. The numbers. This then led the community to collectively wave the white flag and quite honestly give up. A lot of people, like me, not even trying to go back at it in the future because we felt felt like everything was already tried.
Pretty much.
This has allowed the puzzle to remain unsolved for 6 years.
Dang, that's a long
the
time.
crying child has gone unnamed for 9 whole
That's
years.
a long time, y'all.
This is where I come in.
Yes,
Last
sir.
year, I, along with some friends, tried solving the Foxy Grid in the logbook again. One of my copies for the logbook had what seemed to be an F10 down, which the only way to get that was to have the grid be 15 by 15 instead, which the numbers do fade out completely at 15. However, after checking a few more copies, it turns out it hardly even exists there, and is very faded out to the point that no one else has really gotten it, leading me to the conclusion that it's actually just a part of the background image of the same color, and just so happens to fit a box by coincidence. I then tried to reverse engineer getting Garrett, which is assumedly the crying child stand-in's name in the movie, like Abby is for Elizabeth, but I couldn't find a solution either. I then wrote in my Supreme Guide script that one day I may come back to it and try to solve it. Anyways, it's been a whole year since I wrote that, because that video turned extremely massive, and so I returned to the logbook recently. This time, I decided to do what I've done here and go back through the old solutions, seeing if we missed anything, and it always ticked me that the 3 letters E, V, and A seem to work perfectly fine, but then the 4th just doesn't. The method of using the pages that Cassidy asks questions that are the only ones in the whole book to actually get replied to makes so much sense to me. She asks a lot of questions, yet only 3 get replied to, so surely that means something. Also, notice how the numbers begin fading at 10 and are fully gone by 15, meaning that the only necessary rows are actually the first 9, which just happens to fit every single coordinate for EVA. Then it hit me. Something altered right in the logbook is I'm scared, which in the past was linked to the tally marks for some reason, but what if instead it actually links back to Cassidy asking, do you still have dreams? Right above a picture of the nightmares, who we heavily theorized Crying Child would have seen at some point. A stretch? Sure. But then notice how I can hear sounds, which link back to E, it was for me, which linked back to V, and I can't see, which link back to A, which are also all answers to Cassidy's questions, all happen to come from the same end of night quizzes together, including I'm scared, also an answer to one of the questions. It would be weird for 3 of the only 4 answers to matter, right? So what happens when you use the page number of the question, 41, for 4 across on the first row in the Foxy Grid? You get, D. Well, great. Another failed attempt that literally just says Evad, which isn't a real name. Right? Yes, right. That's not a real name.
It's not a real name,
I went back through the book to look for any
if you
more
say what I
hints,
think he's gonna say.
I noticed that throughout the book, a certain word keeps coming up. After each night's work, we ask that you take a moment for self-reflection. Reflect on the things in life that you are most thankful for. Reflect on
reflect the name.
Reflect on the meaning of your dreams. And a bunch more activities all to do with reflecting on your life, looking back on things, a bunch of self-reflection quizzes, as well as a giant damn mirror, which is where Cassidy asks the crying child, what do you see? And is on the direct opposite page of where we solve Cassidy's name. But why am I bringing this up? Well, it got me thinking about the solution I got, and what happens when you put a word in a mirror
please.
It goes back to front, and the word is reversed. So what would happen when you put EVAD into a mirror? It turns into DAV. Dave! The crying child's real name.
God.
These 2 pages right next to each other give us the answers to both names, and a full conversation.
God.
It's me, Cassidy. What is your name? What do you see? Dave. All of the questions Crying Child later answers have bloodstains on them. All of the answers come from the same end of night.
That is insane.
All of the reflection stuff hints at reflecting something, and the 2 names are both solved directly next to each other. To me, this seems pretty solid. Unlike Evan,
that does
this
seem pretty solid.
Doesn't break the method for the final letter.
It doesn't.
It actually remains consistent for each, making use of the final answer we get from the Crying Child that was seemingly
7 numbers in the 4 questions right there.
And it also makes use of the constant reminding to reflect throughout the book. I know some will have an issue with I'm scared being an answer for do you still have dreams, but the fact that it's specifically above the image of nightmare, which Mike himself categorizes here under a dream.
Bro, this is crazy.
None of the other questions are even somewhat possible to be the question he's responding to. It seems to be the right one.
It has to be.
Haven't we heard the name Dave somewhere else before? Yes, we have. Multiple times, actually. Going release order, and in the Silver Eyes, which was released directly after FNAF 4. William Afton uses a disguise to hide from
That's
the
right, he does.
This disguise
uses Dave Miller.
But why did he pick Dave?
Oh
we
my
actually
God.
learn in the Silver Eyes that something other than the murders happened at Fredbear's family diner. Quote, they were together, just the two of them. And it must have been before everything. Before Fredbear's went wrong. Before anyone was dead. Then throughout the series, we're reminded that the murders all happened at Freddy's. Whatever happened at Fredbear's was a separate event that was bad, and bad enough to cause the location to close down. To me, this pretty clearly sounds like the Big Bite also
the Big Bite of
happened in this
83.
timeline. So if the crying child's name is truly Dave, this would then mean that William was literally using his dead son's name
Oh my
to disguise
God, that's
himself.
crazy.
That's insane. If you believe that Mike is under the alias of
That is
Fritz in
insane.
FNAF 2, being fired for the same reasons as Mike in FNAF 1, and that he's indeed the guard at the time, then that's another Afton who uses a dead person's name as their alias. Like
Oh my
father,
God.
like son.
Like father,
Also,
like son.
in the Tales from the Pizzaplex story The Mimic, there's a kid named David, the son of someone who works on the animatronics, who just happens to carry around a plush toy everywhere he goes, to the point that the Mimic continued to mimic it even after his death. Look, I'm not saying he's a crying child stand-in,
Obviously not
but
that,
could
but
possibly be a narrative
that's
parallel.
100% a parallel.
Also in the FNAF
That's a
movie,
parallel.
There's a
Oh my
drawing of
God.
the kid named David whose mum is holding a party balloon. This being the only drawing on this wall to actually have a name for the child who drew it.
The funny thing about this is that after I actually went ahead and did the simple thing of searching for FNAF
Yeah, this is all
Dave,
100% right.
I found out that I'm not
This theory is 100% valid.
To get this answer. I know, I'm shocked too. I 100% swear on everything that I got to this.
Oh, I believe you, Hyperdroid. I believe you.
Up until this very point in the script, I thought I was the only one who got Dave. But it turns out that it was pointed out as a possibility years ago. Although after the Evan solution got debunked, for some reason those same people assumed that it meant the whole method was debunked, when no, it was just the final letter. All in all, I believe the word hidden in the Foxy grid is Avad, which gets reflected into Dave, making the crying child's name Dave Afton, or David, depending if Dave is a nickname. Like Game Theory used to do, getting some real-world facts into this, and Dave was actually quite a popular name back when he would have been born, being charted as the third to fifth most popular male baby name between 1970 and 1980. The name Dave or David also means beloved, which considering most assume Mike's whole character arc starts from the regret of killing his brother in the games, and the movie goes out of its way to show how much he cares about his brother, it would make sense that he's beloved. Speaking
that does
of the
make
movie,
sense.
some
Oh
people
my
claim
God.
that the crying child's name is Garrett, which is his name in the movie. However, I don't think this is the case, mainly because Elizabeth's name was changed to Abby, which is just an anagram of and a reference to baby. And despite me saying it's a nickname for Elizabeth in my movie breakdown, it isn't actually a common nickname. And honestly, it's that uncommon that I'm almost certain Scott did not do that intentionally. The only reason I even thought Abby was a nickname for Elizabeth in the first place is literally because of a single website that comes up after a single Google search, saying that it's apparently true. Genuinely, that is the only reason I ever claimed that. Also in the same movie, William uses a different alias, Steve Raglan, instead of his pre-existing and canon alias, Dave Miller. Even in the novel trilogy, the name of Golden Freddy's spirit is a kid named Michael. Yes, Michael. And a kid named Jeremy doesn't even exist. These are different continuities. They have things all over the place. Yes, even names. So I personally just do not think that Garrett is meant to be the crying child's real name, whether it's actually Dave like I'm suggesting or not. Now only one mystery remains. The tally marks.
The tally marks.
Seriously, what on earth are these for? I do have one idea that I'm personally sticking with that I'll get into later after I share my past attempts at it, but being completely honest, even I'm not 100% confident in my final conclusion on that specifically. And considering it's just a bunch of 5s and a single 4, I really don't know how you can get anything real out of this.
How would you?
I've tried so many things with this code specifically that I'm going to quickly go over for you guys before I go into what I actually think it's for. So you can check off these ideas as attempted, or maybe you'll think of something I've not and add onto it. First, I attempted to use the number of the tally to get a word from the same page, or if it's a double page, the other side, which got me to you from working end, which seems quite close to being something honestly, but it ends with end, which doesn't make much sense. Also, some have said it's actually architect instead of end, making it to you from working architect, but that's the 4th word, not the 5th, which the tally on that page is 5. Also tried with the first letter of the words, got nothing. Incorrect. Second, I tried to match it to how many nights Mike would have completed in all of FNAF, which only equal to about 32 nights. Even if Mike is the night guard, in all the games. The tally number races to 39, however. Incorrect. Third, I then noticed these images are actually shared between the Freddy files and the logbook. So I decided to try cross-referencing the numbers between the two books by going to the page in the Freddy files that's the same page the tally was found in the logbook, and then going to the 4th or 5th letter depending on the tally number, and this literally never worked, and in retrospect, of course it didn't. Also tried with just the first letter of the words, got nothing. Incorrect. Fourth, I then tried literally just thinking what seemed similar between all the pages I cross-referenced, or what could be confirmed by going back to them, which almost got somewhere honestly, since it was the page of Beware Foxy, whose mask Mike wears in FNAF 4, which would confirm he's the Foxy bully 100%, the hallucinations Mike sees in FNAF 1, possibly connecting them to the crying child in some way, Nightmare Fredbear, again confirming Mike is the FNAF 4 player, but then it all breaks apart when the final two numbers go to Toy/Witherchica's gameplay page, which has no real significance to Mike, and Jeremy Fitzgerald's paycheck page. Incorrect. Fifth, I then tried using the word search and Foxy Grid to quite literally get anything useful from those numbers, by doing the page the tally was found as the X position, and the tally number itself as the Y position, and vice versa too. Nothing worked. Incorrect. Nothing. And quite honestly, the attempts ended there because I really don't see where these tallies are meant to go. I did think after trying all these attempts, however, that maybe it's a whole lot simpler than we all think. I remembered that all of the tallies put together equal to 39, and I've come to the conclusion, despite how it may be disappointing to some, that the whole point of them may have actually been to lead us back to page 39 itself, thinking we'll get a secret, which would then lead you to realize, oh wait, there's actually 2 page 39s here, and then you begin the Cassidy search. This seems like a cop-out though, right? Well, do remember that the search for Cassidy only started due to the ABC found on the Foxy Grid, which also remember, didn't even end up being used for Cassidy's name at all anyways. Meaning there'd have to be another way to get a hint that we're meant to investigate these random numbers to get a whole other name that's got nothing to do with the Foxy Grid and the solution for that. Also notice how this page 39 happens to be the page which features the gravestone with my name on it, connecting to the 5th kid instead of the crying child, which also happens to be the first mention in the logbook that we're searching for their name too, and also happens to be about moving forward instead of reflecting back like we're told all throughout this book, further showing it's different to the other name. If the tally equaled to anything else but 39, I wouldn't believe this for a second, like you probably don't. But since literally all of the tallies are groups of 5 besides a single one just to make the number 39 instead of 40, honestly makes me think this conclusion isn't too far-fetched. Also, with that in mind, notice how there's only 7 sets of the 5 tallies, and Cassidy's name happens to be 7 letters long. So maybe, just maybe, the tallies were actually the real way we were meant to notice that some of the numbers had actual significance, being how we were meant to start the hunt for her name specifically. This would then unfortunately mean that the 2 hardest puzzles in FNAF history were actually quite simple instead. Oh my god. Just connecting the final crying child answer to a Cassidy question for the final letter, like the rest were already doing, and simply reversing it for the FNAF fans always overthink things when it's just very simple. Being how we figured out we could get Cassidy's name via the other random numbers in the book, just like the one it redirects us to. Oh my god. Also, because besides that, honestly, assumption, I really don't know what else the tallies could be for, nor what they'd even reveal. Who knows, one day I might come back with I solved FNAF's biggest mystery, again. But for now, there we have it. My solution and theory, please remember this is just a theory, to the Foxy Grid and therefore crying child's name, Dave Afton. Dave Afton, I really like that. Being the real incentive that was accidentally skipped in favor of the Foxy Grid to start the Cassidy search and for us to start taking note of the weird numbers throughout. But what do you think of all of this? Will you be calling the crying child Dave Afton from now on, or do you disagree with me and have found something that disproves? I'm gonna start calling him Dave. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed and at least had some fun learning about this rabbit hole that I've especially after everything we've seen here. I hope this starts some discussion about the logbook again, especially those tallies, instead of people just disregarding it forever. And please prepare yourself for the biggest FNAF video I've ever made that is over 24 hours long and is for the entire community, whether you just joined or have always been here and want to refresh your memory on things. Yes, sir. The Supreme Guide. Looking forward to it. Releasing in a few weeks, depending on when this video releases. I have no idea as I'm saying this. When it's out, please share it around and just support it as much as you can, because I've spent a whole year on this. We'll do Hyperdroid. Let me know what you think about all of this. I hope you all have a great day or night. Please remain positive in this community, even if people disagree with your theories or whatever, and I'll see you all soon. Bye. Bye-bye. Oh my goodness. Wow. That right there was just mind-blowing. That right there was just absolutely mind-blowing, gal. Like, oh my god, dude. Like, there's just so much to take here from this video and everything as well too, right? With the, again, with like, you know, how they use this letter grid right here and like, you know, they took the different numbers, right? They use these numbers to help, like, you know, sort of figure out what sort of letters they were, you know, trying to get. And then obviously they got the name Cassidy right here as well too. So the crazy name Cassidy right there, but who knew that all we simply had to do was simply
simply take Evad and just put it in the mirror and reverse it, right, reflect it to get the name Dave, which is short for David as well too. Dave Afton, oh my god, bro. The fact that, like, you know, Dave was a possibility but just been disregarded, but now it's like, when you really think about it, when you simply take these 4 letters and just, you know, when you put it in a mirror, obviously you have, you know, the word on a piece of paper normal, right? But then when you flip it and reverse it, the word is backwards as well too, right? But in this case, since we take our answer here and just reverse it once again, we get Dave right here. And like, he makes a lot of really good connections too. Like, again, the fact that I switched up here, right, with the Cassie questions, you know, there's 4 questions that Cassie answered, and Dave, right, is 4 letters as well too, right? And plus, not to mention that Cassidy, like, again, when they use the numbers, I believe it was back here. Already else, I did manage to find the exact like frame as where it show like all this with like, you know, the pages and alt pages, the totals and highlight and everything. So as you see, right, with when it comes to figure out Cassie's names, you had to find like, you know, the different numbers as well too. You had like number 1 right here, you had to find 1 single number. For number 2 is 1 single number. Number 3 a single number. Number 4 multiple numbers. Number 5 multiple numbers. 6 and 7 were also multiple numbers as well too. So in short, they all use like numbers, but you had to find like these 7 numbers in order to, you know, find the 7 letters and create the name Cassidy as well too. Meanwhile, for the crying child, so we as a community always assumed that it was the 3 questions, and we had to use the tally marks in the magazine to get the 4th letter, which, you know, end up like, you know, making a very weird name. But then afterwards we decided to settle on the name Evan, and although it was an alright theory, it was like, it was just a little off, right? The name just seemed a little bit off, you know, Evan. But with here though,
the whole method was debunked, when no, it was
but
just
instead of using the tally mark, you simply had to use the 4 questions instead. And so by having, you know, the 4 questions there, getting like, you know, the 4th letter, right, spelling out Evad and then you know, reversing it and create Dave, it just makes sense. Like, this is all mind-blowing. This is all as bro, Hyperdroid, you have really outdid yourself, man. Oh my god, the fact that it's been so many years since, like, you know, we couldn't, I can't believe it's been so long, you know, since, you know, we have been able to solve this mystery, like, for so many years, all the way up until now, until Hyperdroid solved it, man. Got the crying child's name. This is just mind-blowing. And the amount of time and effort that Hyperdroid and his friends have put in to be able to solve the Foxy grid right here, dude, like, I just can't imagine. I would honestly just be losing my mind trying to solve the Foxy grid right here, dude, let alone try to figure out what the crying child's name is as well. So all I have to say is, to you, Hyperdroid, and your friends, y'all guys have my respect. The fact that he was even also interesting as well too, like, he made a connection with the Silver Eyes book as well too.
Dave somewhere else before?
Yes, we have. Multiple times, actually.
The fact that we heard and seen the name Dave and David multiple times is crazy, dude. Like, the answer has been in front of us, like, so the answer's been put in front of us in so many things, like, the whole time, bro. It's just, it's crazy.
And in the Silver Eyes,
a book which was released directly after FNAF 4,
yep,
William Afton uses a disguise to hide from the public that he's the same guy. This disguise being Dave Miller.
Anyways, the name's Dave. The fact that William uses his dead son's name, oh my god, that's a bad father. That's super creepy. But like, for the sake of lore, oh my god, that's crazy. That is just, my mind is blown. That is just absolutely insane. And again, we know that Michael also uses fake names as well too, because again, if
that Mike is under the alias of Fritz in FNAF 2, being fired for the same reasons as Mike in FNAF 1,
yep, being under the alias of Fritz,
he's indeed the guard at the time, then that's another Afton who uses a dead person's name as their alias.
Again, that's crazy, bro.
Like father, like son.
Like father, like son. Yo, if all this evidence that Hyperdroid presented in this video does convince you that the crying child's name is Dave, you know, with being short for David, I don't know what is, bro. But oh my god, I love how he brings up with, like, you know, with Edwin and his son David as well too.
In the Tales from the Pizzaplex story, The Mimic, there's a kid named David, the son of someone who works on the animatronics,
yep,
who just happens to carry around a plush toy everywhere he goes, to the point that the Mimic continued to mimic it even after his death. Look, I'm not saying he's a crying child stand-in, but could possibly be.
But I love how he brings us up to, like, you know, Tales from the Pizzaplex book, The Mimic. Again, sorry if I'm just not saying it right though, but obviously it's not the stand-in, but I love how he just calls it as like a neat possible narrative parallel / hint in the same timeline. I really liked how he brought that up, and it's like, I'm just in full agreement. I'm shocked, but I'm in just full agreement. Like, and again, the fact in the FNAF movie too, right? How we missed it. There's a drawing that has a little boy whose name is David as well too, right? And I'm assuming that must be David's mom right there. Man, overall, I'm just in absolute shock, man. Again, like, the evidence that Hyperdroid presented here is just incredible. Like, I can tell that he has put so much hard work and effort into his video. Like, this took a very long time, just like, you know, find out like so many possibilities, different ways, and then, you know, figure out what the crying child's name is. Well, too, because it's been so many years. We always assumed that it was the name Evan, but we could all agree 100% now that, you know, not only has this theory been solved, but that the crying child's name is Dave, which is also short for Dave as well too, David Afton. And I really like it. I really like Dave. Like, it just fits really well. Like Dave, Michael, Elizabeth, like, you know, William Afton's 3 children right there. Like, those 3 names put together, it just sounds right. It just sounds like, it's just on point. It's just on point. It just fits perfectly. And again, no disrespect towards Evan, but again, you know, Evan, the name Evan Afton just seemed a little bit off like Evan, Elizabeth, and Michael again. It was a cool name at the start. It was like, we had no idea what on earth this child's name could be. We're just gonna say Evan, and it's like, okay, we just agree with that, just move forward, right? I'm so glad now that this mystery has been solved, and that, you know, the crying child's name has been revealed to be Dave, and the fact that, you know, William Afton, you know, uses his dad's name, and Michael Afton also used another dead person name as well too. It just all ties together very nicely. So like, in short, this theory is absolutely mind-blowing, but I love it. And hopefully someday we'll all be able to figure out what these tally marks really mean, but time will tell the answer. And I also just find it hilarious how, like, he put it here, like, the 2 hardest puzzles in FNAF history were actually just simple. Like, I can't believe that. Like, again, we know that when it comes to, like, you know, FNAF, right, it's always complicating, and like, we always, like, you know, when we, you know, have one thing answered, like 2 more things replace it, and then there's loopholes and everything, and it's like, we just make it so overcomplicated. But like, the fact that, like, the 2 hardest puzzles in FNAF history were just actually so simple, it's just crazy. It's just like, I'm just like, what the flip, bro? What the actual flip? Like, I'm just in disbelief right now. Like, oh my god, this is all crazy. This is all just insane right now. And with that, this brings us to the end of this video. What are your guys' thoughts on the crying child's name being Dave? To me, I really like the name Dave. It sticks really well, and that Dave, which is short for David, is a biblical name just like Michael and Elizabeth's names are. And we all know that Scott made Christian games in the past, so it all ties together very nicely. I really like this theory, and I'm in full agreement with it. I've also linked HyperDroid's channel and theory video in the description, so make sure guys drop him a sub and show his channel some love. Keep up the great work, HyperDroid, and I look forward to seeing more of your future videos. Also, if you guys enjoyed today's video, I highly encourage y'all to leave a like down below and hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any of my future videos. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe, positive, beautiful, another, and remember, the grind never stops, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy, y'all.